Oh, here we are. Welcome to the Sports Porch Philadelphia.
Welcome.
We are back after, did we do this last week?
We did.
We did,
Yeah.
Just remote.
Oh, that's right. Without Rob?
No, with Rob. I was remote.
I don't even remember. Anyway, yeah, I do remember. Welcome back to the Sports Porch Philadelphia. We're coming to you live all over the world on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, and of course we drop the podcast right after the show on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or anywhere you get your
freaking podcasts.
There you go. That's almost better. And so
it's time.
Yeah, it's time. I actually took a nap this afternoon.
Yeah, good for you.
Which is rare.
Good for you.
But I have a real job now, so it's tiring.
Good for you. Good for you.
What'd you do that for?
I know, really, at my age.
I'm going to be honest, too. I took a nap this afternoon, too.
Oh, yeah, and you've had a real job. I love the Wawa shirt. That's an homage to Bryce Harper, right?
Wawa. It's an homage to anybody from Philadelphia.
I think we're going to have to fine you for that. Didn't Harper get fined for wearing? I saw he got fined for wearing like the Wawa headgear.
Did he?
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's the rumor going around. Okay, you can also follow the Sports Porch Philadelphia on YouTube at Philadelphia Sports Porch. What are we going to do here? Of course, we're going to talk Major League Baseball playoffs. The Phils are tied with the Mets 1-1. We get a night off, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they're going up to New York, or they're coming in. Yeah, they're going up to New York.
To New York tomorrow night.
Tied 1-1, two very emotional games. We're going to talk a little bit about the Eagles didn't play. They had a bye week. So we're going to talk a little bit about the state of the NFC East, which is odd right now. Pretty odd.
Yeah.
Not as predicted.
A little out of balance.
And then, of course, we're also going to do a little Game 3 preview. I forgot about that. Then the puck drops Friday night for the Flyers in the beginning of Michkov Mania, right?
Yes, Michkov from Mother Russia.
Right, always Mother Russia. Russia. And then Rube's going to have to guess who the Sixers are playing tonight. Nobody drop a comment on that, please. As always, I have the Grand Schwabini over here to my right in the studio, coming to us live here in
the studio.
Thank you. And Rube, frustrated Philly fan, now living in Texas on the outskirts of Austin. And you were not affected by that hurricane, right? It skipped over you guys. It went way to the east, right?
Way east, thank goodness.
Yeah. There's another one brewing, and I think it's going to just wipe out the rest of Florida. Can you say Democratic conspiracy? Maybe let's try to keep everybody away from the voting machines.
Thanks for your weather report and
You're welcome.
Your idiotic take on world news.
It's called banter. It's called banter, Schwaber. It's called banter.
All right. Well,
page 1.
Our fans want to talk Phillies.
Of course they do.
I think we have, of course, Casty delivered. So big comeback win for the Phillies yesterday. I know that's where all the emotions really are at this point. But let's take a dig back to game 1, where you had Nola on the mound, absolutely dominant.
No, Wheeler on the mound.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
You're thinking about tomorrow night.
I'm already thinking about tomorrow. I'm thinking, tomorrow. But Zach Wheeler was dominant, set a Major League Baseball record for most swings and misses in a postseason game.
Which doesn't really matter if you lose, right?
Well, they were winning when he was in the game.
Right.
If only we could have ended it there.
Right. So he pitched 7 innings, only gave up 1 hit, struck out 9. He did walk 4 batters, which led to a high pitch count. So he was at 111 pitches, and that's part of the reason why he couldn't finish the game. Now, so Rube, here's the thing. I'll tell you what, if there was anything the entire year that I was just sure of,
you're going to say it's our bullpen.
Yeah. I mean, like, basically Strom and Hoffman the entire season have been unhittable.
Yeah.
Unhittable.
Yeah.
And unreal. Like game 1 and game 2. Not Hoffman game 2, but Strom in both games and Hoffman in game 1. I just honestly, I couldn't believe it. Now, give the Mets credit. I mean, they're certainly a good team. And I think it's a very 50-50 series right now, for sure. But still, I mean, if we had lost 2-1, it would have, been okay. It was just the losing 6-2, like, where they just kept getting hit after hit after hit after the bullpen. It was crazy. So it was very frustrating. What's your thoughts, Rube?
Yeah, just so discouraging. Like the bullpen was not the problem. And all of a sudden it is. And when you combine that with we still just couldn't hit the ball in game 1, that's a recipe for disaster. So yeah, very surprised to see that. When I think of how Topper played it, I think he played it like he did all season, and it worked all season. And you really can't second guess it. So
Yeah.
I say, chalk it up to the Mets just are on fire. The Mets are this year what the Phillies were the past 2 years. We're
Right.
snuck into the playoffs, barely snuck in. They're rolling. They got mottos. They got their stadium pumping, and they can't seem to lose. And this guy Vientos or whatever his name is an absolute fire.
Yeah.
So
full disclosure, had no idea who he was before the start of this series.
Neither did I. but all of a sudden, he's Babe Ruth.
Right.
So listen, it was really depressing. Like I don't remember the last time I felt that bad after a loss. Just because we wasted a gem by our ace.
I'm looking at 2 pitching lines here. I'm looking at the Phillies and incredible. Hoffman didn't even get an out.
No.
2 hits, 3 runs, all 3 earned. Strom got an out, but 2 hits, 2 earned runs. But then I'm looking at the Mets, and did they throw a bullpen game at the Phillies?
Sort of.
2 innings, 3 innings, 2 innings, and then 1 inning, 1 inning. Well, that's a bullpen game. I mean, you know what I mean?
Keep in mind what they were up against. They had to play a double header on Monday after the season was over.
Yeah.
So they had 2 starting pitchers on Monday. Then they had a starting pitcher Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then had to play the Phillies.
Yeah, I understand that. It's just like this. So then they had to pitch a bullpen game.
Well, kind of yes, kind of no. It was a very strange. Their starter for game 1 is their best pitcher.
Yeah.
But he didn't pitch at all this year. He pitched like 7 innings or something.
Yeah.
He's been injured the whole year. They say he's fine. Gives up a leadoff homer to Schwarber.
Right.
But then settles down and pitches well. And then a guy who, pitched pretty well a couple days ago comes in. Yeah. I mean, it was effectively a bullpen.
That's what I'm saying. I'm looking at that and going, that's amazing.
Well,
Schwabi, were you relieved when Senga left the game? I was kind of relieved. I'm like, no more of this ghost fork crap for us to chase, right? He gave up 1 bad pitch to Schwarber, and Schwarber hit it out. I was like, all right, I feel better that our bats are going to pick it up. And then, we get on base and we leave 9 guys in scoring position. And then you're like, oh no, here we go again.
Well, that's what happened. Like, in all honesty, when we were winning 1-0, and I knew Wheeler was coming out for the 8th, I thought we were going to lose. Because we had all those innings to tack on some extra runs, and we never did it. And like, I knew pretty much at that point, like, there's a pretty good chance we're going to lose. I didn't think we were going to give up 6 runs, but I thought we'd lose like 2-1 or 3-1 or something like that, and that's where I will say that is where the layoff did hurt the Phillies. Now, I think that's over now because we got over that in game 1. The bats are hot again. But yeah, we could not hit anything in game one. And it was also a lot of chasing. Like, to be honest, we should have destroyed that forkball guy, but we kept on swinging at his crap pitches outside in the dirt, like the entire game. So, it was a very frustrating game. And what are you going to say? I think you hit it on the head. I mean, they basically are what the Phillies were the last 2 years. They finished, I believe they finished the season winning 23 out of their last 33 games. And then they're winning, playoff games in dramatic fashion. Added one more against the Phillies in game one. And I'll tell you what, game two, they were sitting pretty for a little while. I don't think we got our runs until like the 5th inning or the 6th inning, right?
Yeah, it was the 6th inning. Yeah, in the bottom of the 6th, 3 runs.
Yeah,
but
the back-to-back homers. And hey, by the way, Schwabi, I was thinking about you this weekend because Topper, you must have gotten Topper's ear and said you need to start Sanchez in game 2. And
that's right.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, there you go. So great call.
Somebody was talking about that at work.
Yeah.
And I was asking him who's starting in game 2, and he said Sanchez. And I was like, they were listening to the Grand Schwabini. Yeah.
And Sanchez pitched pretty well. But I think the even better part of that is it does feel a lot better having Nola going in game 3.
Yeah.
It really does. But now here's the other thing too. Like to beat this Mets team, the first part of it is thankfully the bats came alive. But I'll tell you what, they didn't come alive for a long time. I mean, essentially after that Schwarber bomb, first at bat of the first game, we were held scoreless for the next 14 innings. And to be honest, we were doing it to ourselves. It's one thing if they're just pitching great, but when Trey Turner and Castellanos, when they start swinging at that crap, those down and away sliders, I mean, we're doing it to ourselves. And basically the Mets plan was make the Phillies chase. And that's what they did. They made them chase until they stopped chasing. That's how we got back in and we got our bats going again. So basically, in that inning, what happened was, Trey Turner Trey Turner basically works a walk. He gets on base. Then you've got Harper. I believe he was down in that count like 0-2, battled back to 3-2, and then finally got a meatball to hit, which he destroyed, which, to be honest with you, I have no idea why they gave him anything to hit. I mean, it was like the Phillies were completely dead, done. I mean, series over. I'd almost intentionally walk him like you would Barry Bonds. You know what I mean? But they give up the homer to Harper. Then you got Casty, lets a couple pitches go as well. Doesn't fall for the outside stuff, gets another meatball. Now you're at a tie game. And of course we had, a situation where, hey, the Mets kept battling back, that frickin' Nimmo guy. Whenever I think of him, I think of like Finding Nemo, like he should be like a goldfish or something. I don't know.
Right.
Well, Nemo was a clownfish, just FYI.
Whatever, but
thank you for that.
But he gets the home run the next inning.
So they have a clownfish and Babe Ruth on their team.
That's right. So and then of course you get the great at bat from Stott, with the big triple, to put us in the lead. And I'll tell you what, man, I thought, okay, they got Strom once, they're not getting him again. There's no way, right? There's no way. And he serves up a meatball to frickin' Babe Ruth Vientos. I mean, and here's the thing too. Isn't it interesting? Like when all the Phillies home runs, Schwarber's blast, Harper's blast off the ivy, Castellanos' blast. Like when the Phillies hit a home run, it's like no doubt about it. Whenever the Mets hit a home run, it just like barely goes over the railing. So like even the time that the ball was in the air is painful because you're like, he might get it. He might get it. He might get it.
Maybe not.
Oh,
maybe not.
No.
Just for the record, I want to say that Strom's ERA so far in the playoffs, 2 games, is 36. And Hoffman's is a blistering 81. That's his ERA after that.
So
I mean, there are better days ahead for them.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're a topper, guys, and we start thinking of, well, we're thinking about game 3, right? We'll go back and finish up the summary for 2, but do you pitch these guys in game 3 if you don't have to?
I'll tell you what. The one, I mean, so far, pretty much, I'm okay with what Topper's done. The one move I didn't like was I didn't like going back to Strom in game 2. I thought both he and Hoffman could have used a break for a game. To me, you had Estevez goes out there. He's a closer. That's his role. He got you 3 outs in the 8th with, I think, nobody getting on base. No reason why he can't get a 6-out save.
I was reading something about that he hasn't pitched more than 1 inning, maybe more than 3 times.
Was that right?
This year, yeah. So he's definitely a 1-inning guy, but isn't there somebody else? Couldn't we have gone to somebody else in the closer role? Maybe is Alvarez on the roster?
Alvarado, you mean?
Alvarado, yeah, I'm sorry, Alvarado. Is he on the roster?
Yeah, I think he just doesn't quite trust him yet, but I think he's going to have to. Like, I think he's got to pitch out of the bullpen in the next game. Yeah. And one other thing I just want to recap game 3. What was really nice was the game-winning hit was on a walk by 2 outs, walk by Turner, walk by Harper. It was amazing. Harper missed the game-winning hit by this much.
I know. Oh my God.
I was like, you got to be kidding me. And then Casty, I believe, what did he go down 0-2?
He did.
And then he fought off a couple pitches, and then finally he drilled one to win the game.
And what was the common theme you just said there, Mark? Listening to your synopsis, in the innings that we scored runs and got people on base, we weren't chasing, and Turner and Harper get on base via walk, both by via patience. So
yeah,
I think that's the key.
Just like Casty Cook, baby.
All right, let's move to page 2. Aaron Nola is, pitching game 3. Topper's following the Gran Schwabini recipe for victory.
Yes. By the way, just one comment on Casty. Rube, I don't know about you, but I find it awfully hard to not love Casty. Bryce Harper is my favorite player, but I mean, I probably like Casty second.
What do you like about him? Do you just like the way he gives interviews at the end of games, and he's such a jerk about it?
Yeah, I do. I just think he's Mr. Cool. I love the way when he first signed with the Phillies, he just said, "I don't have a college degree. I just hit baseballs." I thought that was awesome. I don't know. He just seems, why I like him, because to be honest, he's kind of like us. He doesn't really have a heck of a clue about hitting. That's why he's chasing all the crap. But every now and then, it's just he kind of reins it in, and he comes up with big hits. He's got 5 walk-offs this year.
Forget the hits. What about the play in right field? Again this year. A diving catch at a crucial time.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is he comes up big in big moments. That's just why I love him.
And you like that he gives his kid
his son Liam, gives him a high five. Yeah, I mean, he's cool, man. Casty is cool.
Steve's watching. He said, did Yin's guys talk about the expansion of the strike zone And he did ask the same thing I asked. Did Bryce get fined for all the Wawa gear by Major League Baseball? I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know.
He must have been watching TikTok like me.
But let's go to game 3 as you said. So Rube, we'll start with you on this one. So what do you think are the keys to victory in game 3 with Nola on the mound?
Well, listen, what have we seen from Nola the better part of the second half of this season? He gets through the lineup 1.5 times. It gets to the 5th inning, and things kind of fall apart. So I think we've just got to we've got to give him run support, because we assume that runs are going to come in the 5th and 6th inning. The way the Mets have been playing and the way our bullpen has been looking, we're probably going to give up runs in the 7th, 8th, and 9th as well. We got to hit the ball. We got to hit the ball. We got to be patient at the plate. If we don't hit the ball and we go into one of those swoons like we've done the past 2 years at the wrong time, or like or like those however many innings you said we went without a run, we're in deep. So we need Nola to give up less than 2 runs, and we need to hit the ball.
I think, I think we need a special outing from Nola. I don't know if you're aware of this, but I might not be 100% correct on this, but I think I am. I think I heard the other day that in the NLDS, like Nola has like a 0.00 ERA.
Here's what we need you to do, Schwaber. Here's what we need you to do.
Best. Yeah.
What we need you to do is we need you to tell everybody what crap Nola is, so he goes out and does the opposite. Because that seemed to work. I wasn't with you guys last year, but I did listen to the porch from time to time, and all I heard from you was Nola's garbage, and he goes out and he looks like a Cy Young. So could you just give us a little bit of the old Schwaber?
I was trying going the other way though. I was trying to say
no.
I think he's got it.
Baseball is a superstitious sport.
All right.
I'm with Rube on this.
Right,
let's hear it.
I will give in to your superstitions.
Oh God, here we go. Like that.
God damn Nola. I'm so sick of him giving up the home run ball.
There it is.
We're screwed.
Yeah.
You got Babe Ruth Vientos coming up.
Yeah.
Is that even his name? What is that guy's name?
I think it is Vientos.
It is Vientos. I'm going to guess Miguel. Mark.
and I'll tell you what, they said this yesterday. Somebody tell me where Mark Vientos is from.
I think he's from America.
Madison, Wisconsin.
He's from Connecticut. He's from Connecticut. We're letting a guy from Connecticut clean our clocks.
Yeah,
unacceptable. Don't pitch to that guy.
Oh, look, Slice in New York is chiming in here.
What's up, Slice in New York? What's up, dudes? I was at that game yesterday in Philly. Well, that's why they won. That's why they won, because the Mets fan was there.
I'll tell you.
There he is.
I'll tell you though, Sean. Rube, this is a buddy of mine, Sean. He owns a place out. He's from New York. He's a Mets fan, and he owns a great pizza place out here called A Slice of New York. They were actually highlighted by David Portney and got a really high score, which was pretty cool. It was a great game. I'll tell you what, though, the Mets, my man Sean, they make me very nervous. They're a very good team. I'll tell you what the Mets do better than the Phillies. The Mets work counts really, really deep. There was in game 1, there was that Iglesias guy who worked like a 10 pitch at bat. And to be honest, I think that the Mets have a better lower lineup than we do. I think the Mets 7, 8, and 9 hitters are probably better than our 7, 8, and 9 hitters. They don't have like a Harper and a Schwarber, but that's maybe where we kind of have an advantage.
Well, I'm going to stop you there. They do have kind of a Schwarber, although I don't think he's their leadoff hitter. Pete Alonso, 34 home runs. He only batted 240 with 88 RBIs. Schwarber is at 38, 248, and 104. So they don't have a Schwarber in the sense that he doesn't. I don't think he's their leadoff hitter.
But what I'll tell you what happens though. They move Lindor to the leadoff spot, and they've been unstoppable since that. If there's a guy outside of Philly, dare I say, who I love to watch play, I love watching Lindor. He puts bat on ball. He plays with joy. Seems like a cool guy, and he's a hell of a shortstop. And I think he sets the table for them. So
He
they
does.
got to figure out how to get him out as well.
I will tell you that what's his name? Alonzo. He's a definite hate the face guy. Wouldn't you say? Like you see that face and you just kind of want to punch him in the face.
It's so funny.
Mark has experience of this because I think back in college, Mark was a hate the face guy.
I mean, I think he actually kind of looks a little slow, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
You know what? The one thing I will say about New York, like he says, I
in New York, yeah,
face too. Yeah, it's true. The one thing I think the Mets got to crack down a little bit on. Although I don't know, maybe it's good to have charisma and stuff. But JT was really chirping at Nemo the other day. He didn't like something that Nemo did. I think he was sort of like, grandstanding a little bit. And, I'll tell you what, I guess this is his thing, but I really don't like the Alonso kiss to the sky when he hits a home run. Like, dude, like you hit 34 home runs this year. Like you don't have to act like it's your first home run you ever hit.
It kind of was an important one, truth be told. It did beat Milwaukee. And you got to admit, this is true Philly fan, right? We hate it when other teams do that stuff. But when Rhys Hoskins slams the bat, we're like, that's the greatest thing we've ever seen in our life.
That's true.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to give my 2 cents on this game 3. I think that the Phillies are going to have to get out to a quick start on this one, and it's not going to be just a Kyle Schwarber home run. So it kind of flies in the face of they're going to have to be aggressive at the plate early and get out to an early lead. And if Nola pitches the way he has been pitching, in spite of Mark's negative feelings about him, see, I'm helping you with that.
Thank you.
Come on.
Then he ought to, then that shake, the bullpen for all intents and purposes is shaky right now. So you got to be able to give the bullpen, when you have to hand it off to them, give them a nice, comfortable lead, 3 runs or more. And then you can get through this game and take control of the series. And that's going to be hard to do because in the first 2 games, as you were alluding to in the first part of our conversation here, was the fact that, they were swinging and missing a lot. They were chasing pitches. They weren't patient. Then they settled down and started working the account. This time around, I think they're going to have to be, they're going to have to be aggressive. Slice in New York says this series is 100% going 5 games. They'll split in New York. Philly will win at home. I hate to say it. And Steve about Alonso, more showboating with home runs is great for baseball. It's like a TD Chelly
celebration.
Never mind. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I have to say I kind of agree with Sean from Slice in New York. I definitely think it's going 5. I think there's no doubt about that. And, look, I'm going to say it's a toss up. I mean, I really will say, I mean, I don't really feel confident. I actually feel like, I'm not saying that the New York Mets, if they beat the Phillies, will go on to win the World Series, but I actually feel like if the Phillies were to win the World Series, I feel like this series is going to be the hardest one to get through.
Well, the rivalry alone is one that makes it much more intense. And the fact that the Mets, who mid-season seemed like they were not going anywhere, and then they catch fire and ride this all the way in. I agree with you. I think for right now, this definitely looks like it's going to be the hardest series for either team, no matter who wins. That's what I think.
What's your call, Rob? What are you looking at here?
I don't want it to go 5, and let me tell you why. We haven't been good at home last year and this year in the playoffs, right? You think about the Arizona series, you think about game 1 of this series. I think we squeezed the bat a little too tight. I'd like to go to New York, win 2, and be done with it. I say if we don't, I think we're in trouble.
Do you think we will or not?
From what I've seen the past 2 days, I'm very nervous it doesn't come back to Philly, and I'm very nervous that New York wins. I wouldn't be surprised by it. Again, said it earlier in the show. They are the Phillies of the last 2 years, and they seem to be on a mission. And we're not playing our best baseball right now.
And Steve says the Mets sweep in New York. I told you last week to avoid the Mets. He always likes to pretend he's always right, doesn't he?
Right.
Yeah. We'll talk to him in a minute.
I mean, look, this is a really, really tough series. It's and I'll be honest, like I was very disappointed when the Mets had that miracle win, against a great closer in Milwaukee, down 2 runs, 3-run home run by Alonso. I mean, I felt like with Milwaukee coming in, it's a sweep. And then I knew with the New York Mets coming in, especially with all the late game heroics, I knew it was going to be a fight.
Hey,
go ahead, Rube. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, by the way, I'm looking at Leslie Rubenstein's comment. Phillies win 3-2. Let me give you a little hint. In addition to continuing to bash Nola as being garbage, I suggest sending flowers or cookies or something to Leslie Rubenstein, because I think she's got some sort of magical powers that it seems to me like if she is upset with yours truly, the Philadelphia sports teams don't play well. So we all got to be a little extra nicer to her. So just
in particular, you, dude.
I am on my best behavior.
This is on you.
It could be.
In particular, you, dude.
There's nothing I can do from half a world away.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah.
Flowers, cookies, whatever needs to be done. Do what you need to. Dig into your piggy bank and do it, Schwab.
All right, so looking forward to this exciting series continuing tomorrow night from New York. Aaron Nola on the mound, and a guy named Sean Manaea for New York. Sean Manaea.
Oh, yeah, and and that's the thing too. It's like, like you look at these guys and you're like, who the hell are they? And then they're all really good.
I'm looking at his picture and I'm like,
Rube
was making comments about my hair before the show. You should see this guy's hair. He makes Troy Polamalu look bald. Seriously. I wish I could put that up.
Well,
that's amazing.
I think that's enough.
Maybe Slice of New York has a comment on that. All right, let's move on. And before we move on, I want to thank you and remind you that if you're watching us live or watching the video, we're coming to you all over the world, the Sports Porch Philadelphia on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and X. And of course, I'm going to drop this podcast. You can follow it on the Sports Porch Philadelphia podcast on Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, or anywhere you get your
frickin' podcast.
There you go. Okay. Page 3. This is going to be fun. Around the NFC East, the Eagles had a bye week. Of course, they're 2-2.
Yep. Good week. Didn't lose.
And
neither did the rest of the NFC East.
Yeah, unfortunately, right. Seriously, the Giants.
I guess it was actually a bad week.
Yeah, it was a bad week. Technically, you guys lost.
Right.
Yeah, the Eagles lost. So the Commanders are in commands, and not, I think, what anybody expected, but what I would say is it's early. I mean, yes, we're effectively a quarter of the way through the season, but I never lose faith in the Commanders, just falling apart. Now that was easy to do for 20 years because of ownership, coach changes, quarterbacks, and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But this was your baby, Schwaber. You wanted to talk about the NFC East and the state of it. So let's start with you, and then of course you guys want to jump all over me about the Commanders. So you can do that.
Well, I really felt going into the season that Jaden Daniels was the better quarterback of he and Caleb Williams. I think Caleb Williams is going to be pretty good too. But Jaden Daniels is sort of that Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts type. He's young. He's got no tread on the tires, so he's fast as can be. He can pretty much make anything with his legs at this point. He throws a great deep ball, and he's well coached. He's when I watch them play, it's like he's rarely throwing into danger. They really are making a lot of scheme throws that are kind of like easier throws where guys are usually open. He's got a pretty good line of sight to these guys. They've got serviceable players, like Terry McLaurin, Brian Robinson, the running back. They've got a pretty solid defense. And Dan Quinn's in charge of that defense, and he knows a thing or two about defense. So I think the Commanders are for real. I don't know how good their record will ultimately be because I don't really know what their schedule is like. Usually when you're last or second to last place team, you have an easier schedule.
It's not a hard schedule. I mean, they play the Ravens next week.
Okay.
In Baltimore, which is pretty much like a home game anyway. But then they play the Panthers, the Bears, the Giants, and then the Steelers come into town, and then they go Eagles, Cowboys, and then they have some other games. So their next 4 games, they should win 2 of them.
So that's going to,
or if not 3.
So that's going to get them to at least 6-2. Something like that. So
hey, compare it, Schwabi. Sorry to interrupt, but compare that, Chris, to Dallas's next 6 games.
Dallas's next 6 games. Let's go there. It's just going to take me a sec here. The next 6 games for Dallas. Now they did beat the Steelers last night. Lions, Niners, Falcons, Eagles, Texans.
Yeah,
that's kind of a gauntlet.
That's going to be rough without Micah Parsons and Dexter Lawrence.
Right. And then they face the Commanders and the Giants, and those are, of course, division games. So I'll tell you, what are your thoughts on the Commanders right now, Rube?
Well, kind of took my thunder. I was going to say, listen, they're playing great ball. They were addition by subtraction on their defense, which was really shocking, right? They get rid of Sweat, they got rid of Chase Young, and then you look at just their stats. There's no one in the league that scored more points than them this year. Would you have thought a quarter way through the season that they would be leading the league in points scored? And their defense has been very good too. So I'm surprised. I wouldn't have said Jaden Daniels. I wouldn't have agreed with you, Mark, saying he was going to be Rookie of the Year. But he seems to be for real. To your point, he throws the ball where it's supposed to go. He gets rid of it. He throws a nice long ball. And their schedule is very, very favorable. So I think they are actually in command of the East and will continue to be at least for the next 6 to 7 weeks. Assuming all things remain constant for the Cowboys. And, I don't know what we're going to get from the Eagles, quite frankly. So, they seem to be in a good place. I'm very surprised by that. Now, Chris, you're a Commanders fan. Talk to us. Are we getting over our skis here? Are we overreacting a bit?
No, but I'm not a Commanders fan. Steve says the Commanders will fade, but better than we thought. I've gone over this multiple times with Mark, with our other co-host of another show. Once the Redskins changed their name, they lost me. And we can go into all the reasons about it we want, politically correct, whatever you want. That was a Dan Snyder play to try to save his ass at the end of the day. That's really what it was. And one of his minority owners was pushing for it. And now we have a new regime. And but just imagine, I've talked about this on our other show, on this show. Imagine if the Eagles changed their name. It would be really hard for you to root for them, because part of the franchise, part of your fandom, part of everything you've watched since you were a child, if you're a real fan, it's wrapped up in that name. It's wrapped up in that, in whatever comes along with being a Redskins fan. So I am not a Commanders fan. But yesterday, I watched the first, and here's how far that goes. For years, I had the DirecTV, NFL Sunday ticket for 20 years. And I watched every single Redskins game, even when they sucked, which was a lot of Redskins games. I watched Danny Werfel play quarterback for them.
That's some bad ones.
Yeah. I watched Rex Grossman. I watched Steve Spurrier destroy lots of players, Patrick Ramsey. Anyway, fast forward to today. Yesterday I watched the Commanders game, a full game with them as the Commanders for the first time because of all the hype around Jaden Daniels. My takeaway from this is that everything you guys said is pretty true. So this is just an eye test for me watching one game. And I've seen highlights. I think Jaden Daniels is mature as a quarterback. He understands how to run an NFL offense. He definitely has, that running talent. He's made the comment that he wants to be a quarterback first, and you can see that in the way he plays. But I'm very concerned about his size. Now, I know they had maybe 3 or 4 designed runs for him in that game yesterday. When you design a run for a quarterback, usually you provide protection and blocking. But when he has to get out and improvise, the kid needs to put on a little bit of weight, because I am stuck in the RG3 looked like he was the answer, and then he got injured. Now, he doesn't run as much as RG3, but he did set rushing records already.
Right.
But most of those were scrambles. They weren't designed runs.
Yeah, and they've been fortunate. Like, it seems like all these runs he's been able to get out of bounds.
Right. And RG3 did not want to go out of bounds. He wanted to keep running. So, the jury, I think, is still out. I think it's very, it tells us a lot that the team is performing the way it is. I think it is more a result of complete regime change. You have Josh Harris as the majority owner now. You've got a new coach in Dan Quinn, who's a real coach. Rivera was on the back end of his career. He didn't care. I mean, I'm sure he cared, but he didn't care that much. Plus, he was fighting cancer, so that kind of takes a priority over coaching. Their defense is suspect. They played against a horrible Cleveland team offensively. I mean, when is Cleveland going to just dump Deshaun Watson and admit that they wasted their money, which everybody knew from day one?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, Rube. We got Cleveland next week, and I'm afraid that they're going to bench him, and we're going to get Jameis Winston. Yeah. Seriously, because he's so terrible.
He is horrible. He is absolutely. Did you see the play where he just walked off the field?
Yeah,
I could not believe that.
Yeah, so I think we're going to face Jameis Winston, man.
I mean, for them to even look at the effort that Deshaun Watson is putting at least out there on the field, and think that they're getting their money's worth. I mean, they already guaranteed the money. Just bench him. If I'm Cleveland, I'm moving on as quickly as possible. And it was a third down play. He couldn't get the play in time. He decided to hell with it. He started walking off the field, and you could see Stefanski's looking at him like, what are you doing? He walks off the field and forces him to kick a field goal. He basically gave up. Anyway, back to the Commanders. Their defense played against a very poor Cleveland offense. So I think they will fade. I think that right now, Dallas's problem, we'll move this over to the Dallas side of things. I think right now Dallas's problem is they have a lot of injuries on defense. And admittedly, last night, the Steelers' offense is not the Commanders' offense. I made some observations during the Steelers game last night. The Commanders have a better offensive line. They have better running backs. They have better wide receivers.
Better quarterback.
They have a better quarterback. So, but Dallas has a lot of injuries on that defensive side of the ball. And now Dak is still playing well, but
sort of.
Well,
he's turning the ball over.
He's still turning the ball.
Game-winning drive, but 3 picks.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Can the Commanders? I guess the question is, can the Commanders keep this up? Can Dallas get some of their defensive players back? And what is Philly going to do about it? That's really where we have to go. What is Philly going to do about it?
To be honest, just to make it simple, I think the Commanders, the Cowboys, and the Eagles the 3 of them battle it out to the end. Somebody's going to win the division at like 10-7, maybe 11-6. And it's going to be one of those 3 teams.
Well, and right now it looks like it could be the Commanders.
Could be.
So, Philly's going to have to pick up the pace here. They're going to have to solve their issues. And Steve is saying wrong. I don't know what he's wrong about, but what he thinks we're wrong about. But he thinks we're wrong about everything. So.
Right. I mean, and Steve, hey, thanks freaking Steelers for helping us out last night. Freaking idiots. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Man. I mean, like, no Micah Parsons, no Dexter Lawrence, and
Yeah.
put up that shit.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in our next show. But
Saints scored like 50 points in the first half against them.
Yeah, but the Saints have Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, well, and
the Steelers have no running backs.
And the Steelers like to run the ball on 3rd and 8 when they're in the red zone.
Yeah, no running backs. No running backs.
Mark, I wish you would be a little more open with your opinions.
Yeah, seriously.
Yes. Sorry.
Seriously. Well, I will say that the Commanders' offense is pretty well rounded. So, we'll see if Daniels can keep this up. But the Eagles, they're going to be playing.
You see, he missed Ertz for like a potential 90-yard touchdown.
Yep.
The other day.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm thinking. I
love Ertz.
I love Ertz too, but I mean
he's not as
his better days are behind him.
Yeah, but he's serviceable.
Well, he's there for attitude and leadership,
right.
which is what he brings to the table right now. So what do the Eagles have to do? What do they have to do to correct what's going wrong?
Well, they need Devontae and AJ back, which they will be back against the Cleveland Browns.
Right.
So now you have people to throw the ball to. That helps. That's number one.
Right.
Number two, they got to figure out what their identity is on defense. I mean, it's basically been, when they played the Saints had put up 40 plus 2 games in a row, and we hold them to 12. What that tells me, Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter were dominant in that game. Nakobe Dean played pretty well in that game. Zach Bond played well in that game. The rookie corner played well in that game. I mean, the bottom line is they've got talent. And as shown in the Saints game, they can play at a high level. They need to do it consistently. And I don't know how that's going to happen. I mean, it's basically, this is why you hired Vic Fangio, to try to figure out this defense and to get them playing like a team. Because the reality is, they're not a great defense, but they certainly have good enough players to be a middle of the road defense. They could be like a 15th best defense, which if you're scoring 30 plus points could be good enough. But they haven't done it so far. And, I need Vic Fangio to step up. I mean, one of the things that was really concerning from last week. See, one thing I hate the coordinator in the booth. I hate that.
Yeah.
Be on the field, talk to the players. You know what I mean? I don't care about the bird's eye view. If you can't figure out in 50 years of football what's going on at the field level, then just retire.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and they have the Surface tablets. You can see the bird's eye instantly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, to me, this was completely inexcusable. In the last game, the cornerbacks were playing off the receivers pretty far. And they asked Fangio about it, and he said, well, I said for them to move up, and it wasn't communicated right.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean it wasn't communicated right? Well, first of all, you're not there to communicate it. Second of all, then you need to get your butt in the ass of the guy who's supposed to communicate it, who's on the field level. I mean, like what? What is it? It's just up to them. Hey, you know what? You should move closer. Nah, I'm good.
So
I don't want to get beat.
I just want to clarify a statement you made.
Yes.
How exactly do you get your butt in the ass of the person? What exactly does that mean?
Did I say foot up the ass?
No, you said you have to get your butt in the ass of the person.
No, I didn't. Did I say that, Rube? I did.
He's just shaking his head.
Oh,
yes.
Man. I better not rant. I think I lose control when I rant.
Yeah, but that's good. That makes for good podcasting.
There you go.
It does. It does.
Rube, your thoughts?
We got to sack the quarterback, and we need to not be last in the league in plus minus.
Yeah. 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 What do you think? Do you think Jalen Hurts' biggest issue right now? Well, I mean, you don't have Adams or Smith or AJ Brown.
It doesn't. Listen. I hate to keep having this discussion about Hurts, but he's not getting rid of the ball. He's not staying in the pocket. He's making poor choices and he's turning it over. Where do you want to start?
Yeah,
he's not playing. He's not played good football in a year. So I don't know what has to change there. Your quarterback's got to be your best player on the team, and right now, he is not.
I agree with you, Rube. And this was your concern going into the season, and the Eagles are now 4 games in, and that does seem to be a little bit of a problem. Then the question is, can he buckle down and turn it around? And are all of these rumors that are being flown around the internet right now about him and Sirianni not getting along? I mean, at some point, everybody likes to make a mountain out of a molehill because it's clickbait and it makes for good video. But at some point, there's going to be there's some truth to some of this, and where is it gonna end? Can they get on the same page? Because they're stuck with each other for right now. I don't think Sirianni is going anywhere unless they go on and they lose the next 5 games in a row. Then you might see a head coaching change.
They probably wouldn't do it till after the season.
I agree with you,
but yeah, I don't think he should have been back. And look, my guess is that Hurts's talent will prevail. Will win games against crappy teams, and he'll have some 3 touchdown games, and he'll end up, the year with 24 touchdowns and 13 interceptions or something like that. And, but it's just, the bottom line is he needs. What I think about Hurts is we all know from the Super Bowl year, he has the ability to be elite, but he has to be handled to be elite. He's not just elite on his own. Shane Steichen had him playing elite. And right now we'll give Kellen Moore a little time. It's only been a couple games. We'll give Kellen Moore some time, but we know that it's not Sirianni that makes him elite. We know Shane Steichen did make him elite. We knew Brian Johnson definitely didn't make him elite. So, we'll have to wait and see with Kellen Moore. And if it's not Kellen Moore, then I think you're looking for, let's say a new head coach who calls the plays.
Okay. Puck, page 4. Got to move it on here. The puck drops Friday night. Michkov Mania, Mother Russia,
Michkov goal.
I must break you.
I must score a goal.
Hey, yo.
So, talk to us. Give us about 2-3 minutes on this. What are we looking forward to?
Yeah. Did you know? I was doing a little research. I didn't know this, but there's a new sheriff in town. His name is Jet Luchenko.
Oh, did he make the team? Did he make the team?
He made the team.
Did he?
He is one of 2 2024 first-round picks that have made their team. And boy, does that scare the crap out of me as a Flyers fan, because that tells you what we've got, which isn't a very deep team. So
you don't get excited about Jet.
Rob is very negative.
Jet,
very negative.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Let me be positive.
Are you just a negative Philly sports fan, Rob? Because of the beating that you guys have taken over these years.
Negadelphia.
I'm what you call pragmatic. So, all right.
That's what you want to call it.
In our 2 or 3 minutes here, Mr. Hare and Mr. Schwab, buy or sell the Flyers under 85 points this year?
Why not just go with playoffs or not playoff?
Well, I'm saying that because we had 87 points last year, and Chris is showing us his what do you call it, Schwabi? His lioness mane.
Yes.
They had 87 points, and by all accounts, they way exceeded expectations this year.
Well, look, I think first of all, so I would sell on that. I think the Flyers are doing the right thing.
I agree.
What they're doing is, look, they could have signed some players and said we were close to the playoffs last year, few more guys will put us over the top, and let's get in. And in hockey, anybody can win, that whole thing. But I think they're taking the right approach where they're just saying, hey, look, we're not doing everything we can to make the playoffs this year. It's about the rebuild. And, if that means that, Jet Lachenko, has, a rough first year, but maybe next year he's really damn good. Fine. You know what I mean? Like, look, like last year we did want to restore a little bit of pride. And so we brought in like a Sean Walker, and he's a solid defenseman. Now, without him on the team, he re-signed with another team and we traded him at the deadline. Your defense isn't as good, but that's okay. I think that, we just want more and more of the young guys playing to see who can play and see who can't. I think the goal should really be player improvement this year and playoffs next year.
Listen, I will be positive. I completely agree with you. Trust the process, do the rebuild. We've got, I think, the right leadership in place. But in order to win in the NHL, you got to score goals. And besides Konechny and Tippett and hopefully,
Michkov.
Our strength is in our defense and maybe a little puck possession. But we've got unproven goaltending. And we got to find more guys at the top of our pyramid who can put the goal in the puck.
Hey, by the way, a little note. I saw this the other night and it kind of surprised me. Did you know who was the recorded last year as the fastest skater in the NHL? I guess it was in some split time, end to end, they time everybody at some point during the season in game. Who was the fastest NHL player in the league?
I would guess Konechny.
It was Owen Tippett.
Really?
Yeah, number one. He looks fast.
He looks like a big dude, not a fast dude.
He's pretty fast, man. He scores a lot of breakaways, getting by people.
I like him. I like him.
Yeah.
Listen, I think success for this year is let's not finish just outside the playoffs and miss the lottery. I think, yes, let's develop, let's win a couple games, but either get into the playoffs and feel really, really confident about that, which, anyone who talks to you in hockey are like, the Flyers aren't going to make the playoffs this year.
Yeah, true. But Steve says he's a Forster fan. So, yeah, I mean, look, they got some really good players. I mean, we're excited about Michkov. We love Owen Tippett, love Konechny, love Forster. So, they're building something. It's just going to take some time. We're going to have to see. Will Drysdale take a step this year? Will Sanheim continue having a good year after he had a pretty good one last year? So we'll see.
Okay, this Sports Philadelphia is live right now on video on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and X. And of course, I'm going to drop the podcast right after the show on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your frickin' podcasts.
We got one question left before we call it a night.
There you go. Page 5.
Page 5. Okay, the 76ers are in camp and everybody is gushing over everybody. Paul George says, oh, Maxey's a born leader. Maxey says, oh, Paul George is a top 50 player, blah, blah, blah. But the team will take the court tonight against a team that prior to tonight, I never heard of in my life. Do you have any idea who they're playing tonight, Rube? I'll tell you what I'm going to do.
Marathon Oil.
No. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to name the team for you, and you tell me where they're from. Okay?
Okay.
Tonight, the 76ers are playing the Breakers.
Breakers. I want to say an international team because it probably is.
You are correct. It is an international team. And I'm going to give you another hint. It is a country. It's not a city in a country. It's a country.
Sweden.
It is not the Sweden Breakers.
Lithuania.
It is not the Lithuanian Breakers.
Liechtenstein.
That's a city.
No, that's a country.
I don't think
that's a country. That's a
yes.
Well,
thank you.
Then no.
Your geography is horrible.
Can you São Paulo, Brazil?
No, that's a city.
Sao Paulo.
I just tested you.
Okay,
out in the middle of nowhere.
Okay, I'm gonna give you a hint. Okay,
can you tell us the region of the world?
It is not in North or South America.
Okay, well that was all right.
Taiwan.
Not South Africa. Not Taiwan. You guys give up?
Yeah, we're wasting time.
Estonia.
Tonight they are playing the New Zealand Breakers.
Nice. Watch them lose.
The New Zealand Breakers. Hey, man, they got a squad.
They got basketball players in New Zealand?
They got a squad. Belarus, no.
I thought all they had in New Zealand was orcs.
I'm surprised that there are 11 people for a basketball team out there.
And sheep. Steve guessed Belarus. Yeah.
No, it's New Zealand Breakers, baby. You gotta like that name, though, don't you? Breakers?
Yeah, well, it's because they probably all surf better than they play basketball.
Actually, you're right. That's probably
or they shoot bricks and break backboards. I don't know.
It's the long blonde hair, the surfing.
Yeah.
It just comes to me, Schwab.
Yeah,
it just.
I don't know. I'm going blowout tonight.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, listen, Schwaber, thanks for being here. Dude, thanks for coming. Thanks for having me. Thanks for coming around as always. You've been listening to the Sports Porch Philadelphia. You've been watching it all over the world on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and X. And of course, you can always catch the podcast, the Sports Porch Philadelphia, on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or
anywhere you get your frickin' podcast.
That's right. Steve's asking me if that's a new car. No, it's not a new car. And you can follow the Sports Porch on YouTube at Philadelphia Sports Porch. For the Grand Schwabini, for Rube, who is a frustrated Philly fan living in Texas, I'm your technical director. We'll see you next week at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm out.
Go Phils.